Yeah.
The old type of studying is over. Completing a
Yeah.
bachelor in 3 years or in 4 years, this is over. People nowadays will have the opportunity to shape their own curriculum, their own
Absolutely.
program, their own skill set. Everything needs to be connected to the market.
Yeah.
So I don't think this old way of studying is relevant. And I'll tell you
Yeah.
something, I am completely disappointed right now because also as a PhD student connected to a UK university, I haven't received anything about AI.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Unfiltered by Empowered, the podcast where we have unedited conversation with educators and professionals from around the globe. I'm your host Anshul Lau, and in this podcast we speak with passionate voices from across education to explore the challenges, celebrate the successes, and uncover the real stories shaping education, learning, and future of our sector. Today, I'm delighted to join by Penny, who will be sharing her insights on the topic that feels especially timely and very important, and generative AI and how it may reshape the employability of higher education professionals. Penny, welcome to Unfiltered by Empowered. And to begin, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your academic and professional journey so far?
Nice to meet you as well. I'm really happy I'm here today. So I'm Penny, I come from Greece, and my professional journey started like in 2013 when I graduated from my bachelor's at the University of Athens, English language literature, and I went to the University of Birmingham to study applied linguistics. Back then, I think in every professional journey, in everyone's professional journey, I think at some point geopolitics play
Yeah.
like a very big important role. And nowadays, everything is about geopolitics. So back then, if people remember, we were going through like the big Greek economic crisis. The world nowadays has like far more important and critical issues, but back then
Yeah.
that was like the big story. Okay, so I was going around on campus at the University of Birmingham. People were asking me where did I find the money to come and study like for a master's degree. They thought that people in Greece, are beggars, and I don't know, they
Oh.
were looking for food in the rubbish bins, something like this. But I faced some racism, I
Oh,
must
sorry to
say.
hear that.
So- But back then, it was true. Like the economic situation back home was really difficult. So I realized, okay, I made this move to study abroad. So I should continue on that journey. I should move on and I should find like a job abroad. And this is how I started like my career. I've barely worked in Greece, to be honest with you. I've never taught a class full of Greek people. I don't know what it feels like, to be honest with you. So I started like my first job was at a kindergarten, like in China, and then I
Yeah.
went to an American university in the Middle East, in Kuwait. Uh,
In what
but
capacity were you working there in these places?
as an English instructor, as an
Ah,
English teacher,
okay.
but
Yeah,
to be
okay.
honest, like
Okay.
the one of the first things I realized, one of the first obstacles I faced was native level, not native level. You
Okay.
had to be like a native speaker. You must have like a passport from a certain number of countries in order to make a career, and that was an obstacle like
Yeah.
throughout my career. And this is one of the reasons I went to English for academic purposes,
Okay.
EAP, okay?
Yeah.
Because there, the stigma and this obstacle is less profound. So I
Yeah.
started like in Kuwait and then another university in Dubai. In the meantime, pre-sessionals in the UK.
Oh,
So
wow.
until I received an offer from the University of Nottingham, Ningbo, China. I joined them in 2019 until like 2 months ago. I was still working there as an English for academic purposes tutor. But at the University of Nottingham, I had the opportunity like to also obtain another professional identity, that of the learning developer. So I was
Okay.
heavily involved the last few years in the professional development of faculty members. And this is also like my current job at
Yeah.
Xianjiao Liverpool in Suzhou. But like one of the reasons like we arranged this discussion is also because of my PhD and the
Yeah.
employment and how things are going to evolve in
Yeah.
EAP, in higher education
Yeah.
industry. And to be honest with you, at the beginning, I wanted to jump ship from EAP because of this native thing, because that law also was enabled in China 2 months
Yeah.
after I entered the country. So basically, now you cannot teach English, you cannot become like an EAP tutor if you don't have a passport from a certain list of
Yeah.
countries. So I thought, okay, if I want to change universities, if I want to see something else, I need to either change my professional identity
Yeah.
or leave this country or go somewhere else. But
You.
now, the second reason I wanted to change my professional identity is also because of generative AI. I think
Okay.
generative
Yeah.
AI is going to disrupt things so much, and I think it has already, where I think many EAP tutors in the next 5 years are going to become
Yeah.
unemployed.
And wow, that's such an extensive and diverse experience. And even
Yes.
you've been to different countries also. And firstly, I must say that I have a very different view of Greece. This is on my top two visit places. I would love to visit Greece someday. For me, on the contrary, I feel Greece is a very rich country. And the architecture of Greece buildings are amazing. That is always that attracts me to be visiting there. And coming back to the topic, you have moved being from English teacher, then to becoming an EAP tutor, and now into educational development. So looking back, what do those shifts say about how your thinking overall has evolved over the period?
I mean, this evolvement, this development, as you mentioned, it was just my effort to survive
Okay.
professionally and personally. But like my main objective in my 20s, because now I'm 34, I'm a mother now, I'm a wife. But back then, throughout my 20s, my top priority was to continue working abroad. Was like my top priority was I shouldn't go back.
Yeah.
Back is the situation is very, very bad. And now the country has bounced back, has improved, but
Yeah.
still the profession of teacher is very low financially, but not only financially but also socially.
Yeah. So
Like
so
teaching
looking
is not a respectable profession anymore.
so looking back, Penny, does your career path to you feels intentional, accidental, or a bit of both, do you think?
Both.
Okay.
Well, because like how it works, you apply to a bunch of places, you apply to a bunch of positions that you think you are like a good fit, and
Yeah.
then you see what sticks. And for example, I'll tell you something. I found my first university job through Facebook. Like I was
Yeah.
in a Facebook group on a Saturday, and the HR people from Kuwait were looking for people, and I sent my CV, and they replied back. And then I had like my first interview, and I will never forget that. The first question they asked me was if I had any relationship or ever met a person from Israel.
Oh.
And if my response was a yes, they would end the interview process.
Oh, that's very interesting. I never, this is the first time I'm coming across something like that. And it
It
must have
has
been a
happened to
difficult,
me.
yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah.
has happened to me. Yes. So that was like my first job. I was in my parents' home on a
Okay.
Saturday in 2015, and I was just scrolling on Facebook, and in one of the groups of English teachers, they were looking for people, and this is what happened.
Okay. Yeah, sorry to hear that. And it's not been an easy journey for sure. But I'm sure when you look back at where you are at right now, and the conversations that involves AI, employability, professional reinvention, that must make you very proud, Penny.
Yes, I think this is what we all have to do in this
Yeah.
time and age. We need to reinvent ourselves, and this is
Yeah.
like the main point, especially in the age of AI. And I don't
Yeah.
think that many people in higher education, not many people in EAP specifically have realized that. I think
Yeah.
there are still like a significant percentage of people in EAP who don't even pay attention to AI. They
Yeah.
don't really know how to use AI, how to utilize AI. And these are the people that are going to be replaced.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And talking about generative AI, as we have mentioned, when did you first begin to feel that this is not just another digital trend, but something that might significantly reshape professional roles in higher education or general sector?
I was driving
Okay.
from Ningbo. I was going to my boyfriend back then to see him, like in another city. I was in a heavy traffic and I was listening to a podcast in Greece, a business show, a business, not education show,
Okay.
not about education, about business. And they were talking about ChatGPT. And because I was in a very heavy traffic and I couldn't move for some time, I went on the internet and I checked it out and I used it for the very first time. And then I called my husband. I'm like, I need to change my PhD thesis proposal because
Oh,
this
wow.
ChatGPT is going to change everything in education. He was very, very like, he was like, oh, what are you doing? You need to graduate, do something easy. What is that? What is this ChatGPT? This is stupid. Back then, he was an MBA student. And I was like, when I come home, I will prove to you how powerful this is.
Wow.
And when I came home, he had an assignment in his MBA. And we went to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT produced most of that assignment in 5 minutes. And then he said, yes, you're right. That was the moment I thought, okay, things are over. I'll tell
Yeah.
you something. Also, at the University of Nottingham, one of my jobs the last few years was to conduct observations. And I observed a couple of EAP classes, and what I saw in front of my eyes was unbelievable. Like what we used to do in EAP until now, I think it's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Teaching paragraph structure, hello, they can go to ChatGPT and they can do it. They can ask ChatGPT how to structure my paragraph.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the basis of EAP is like teaching people how to write coursework. Is coursework relevant
Yeah.
in today's world? Because at the university I work right now, like they're all in about AI. They're like,
Yeah.
we don't care about the money. We don't like go crazy. Everything needs to change. All the assessments need to change.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be happening in a completely different way. And I don't think EAP has changed so much, but most of what we do is completely irrelevant.
So what makes EAP professional particularly affected by Gen AI at this moment, do you think?
Especially about EAP, I think they need to change fundamentally what they do. And I think EAP professionals can help in something that the rest of the university cannot. So we need generative AI literate students. Someone needs to teach those students how to use generative AI in a productive, efficient way without committing plagiarism. That's not the point, okay? Who can do that in a university? I think EAP professionals can do it. But if someone has paid notice like the last year, especially in UK education, and with the financial issues they are facing, a lot of universities to save money, they have closed down a bunch of foundation level programs,
Yeah.
English for academic purposes departments, foundation, like
Yeah.
everything around EAP, they have closed.
Yeah.
And their excuse, oh, we need to save money. Yes, they need to save money, and they cut down the department that they think
Yeah.
is obsolete.
Yeah. And just for our listeners, I must mention that we have been talking about EAP, and Penny has already mentioned a couple of times. EAP is academic English for academic purposes. just I thought I'll just give you all context that we are talking about EAP a lot of times, so just so that you know that. And yeah, Penny has already mentioned. I thought just I'll reiterate so that you're clear about what we are having a conversation about. And Penny, do you think generative AI threatens EAP work, expands it, or transforms it into something new?
Transform it into something completely new. What is the purpose of English for academic purposes? Help people who's not the first language, whose English is not their first language,
Yeah,
and they need to succeed in university studies, in university assessment, so they can help students to excel in any type of assessment that they have to use English. It doesn't have to
yeah,
be necessarily how to write an essay, because the essay in 5 years' time will not exist. And I can sign my name under this. Like the essay will
yeah,
not
absolutely.
exist. Yes,
Let's,
the essay
guys.
will not exist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this will be a timestamp in 5 years timeline. This video of ours and conversation would be going viral. That Penny predicted that, and this is true.
Yes, like I was in a room, I was in a
Yeah,
presentation last week in my new workplace, and the president was saying the old type of assessment is over.
yeah,
The old type of studying is over. Completing a
yeah,
bachelor in 3 years or in 4 years, this is over. People nowadays will have the opportunity to shape their own curriculum, their own
absolutely.
program, their own skill set. Everything needs to be connected to the market.
Yeah,
So I don't think this old way of studying is relevant. And I'll tell you
yeah.
something, I am completely disappointed right now, because also as a PhD student connected to a UK university, I haven't received anything about AI.
Yeah.
No guidance, no training. Maybe there is somewhere some kind of training, but I'm not aware of it. I mean, what are they doing as universities to deal with it? Or they just issue mandates, don't use it. You're going to be accused of plagiarism. Ha ha ha, blah, blah, blah. Everybody can
Yeah.
use it.
I think it's difficult for people to catch up with the pace AI is developing. And do you think generative AI is revealing weaknesses that were already in higher education rather than creating entirely new ones?
No, I think it revealed
Yeah.
weaknesses, because I don't know for how many years we have the same type of learning,
Mm.
the same type of assessment with very little development or improvement.
Yeah, and I don't know, I get a sense that generative AI is mainly to speed up things. In it's in higher education, it's been used to speed up things rather than to see it as a tool to improve learning and working lives of students and working staff. What would be your opinion on that? Do you agree,
I
disagree?
think with generative AI, we have like the big opportunity to
Yeah,
unburden ourselves of tasks that have no meaning but take so much time.
yeah,
I mean, for example, with generative AI, you can use, for example, Elicit, Consensus AI, Scopus AI. You can use like a bunch of AI tools nowadays to find papers. And in my PhD, I tried to use the traditional working hard route of going into databases, and I could find zero. And I went
true.
to AI tools and I could find like 50 papers in an
Yeah.
hour. Why
So what would,
torture myself? Can Scopus
yeah,
AI or Elicit write your literature review? No, that's not possible, especially at the
yeah,
PhD level, when you know that you are going to a viva they're going to crucify you with questions. If you're stupid,
yeah,
yes, you're gonna do that. But if you're smart, you're gonna harness AI to find the information that you need.
yeah,
You're gonna read the papers, and then you're going to move on and write your literature review.
yeah. And even I want to ask, what would be a general suggestion or expectation from a UK university or anywhere, university anywhere, higher education institution around support on AI that they could be providing? Or basically, I want to understand from you, in your view, what would be a value-led use of generative AI in higher education?
I think the first thing they need to do, and one of the biggest problems I am facing right now in my PhD journey as a scholar, is the taboo around it. I
Okay.
really don't know why I should feel afraid to mention in my literature review, at the beginning, you need to mention the keywords that you use, you need to mention the
Yeah.
databases that you use. Why should I feel afraid to mention Scopus AI? I mean, are we like really, who's going to believe that I didn't use, for example, AI to find my papers?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, who's
absolutely.
going to believe that? At the same time, there is no policy. But even if there is policy, you know that you're going to the Viva room and maybe the examiners are going to think very badly of you because you used AI to find your papers. I mean, it's still a taboo in some circles, in
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
fields. And
Yeah,
I think there
absolutely.
is no unified policy. There is no training. They do not train the tutors. They do not train the teachers. They do not train the students. And in my PhD study, this is one of my findings because I have people like from every country, 70 countries, 30 countries, many universities around the world. And there is no unified policy. University A does one thing, University B
Yeah.
does like another thing, but I think the universities are going to float and
Yeah.
thrive in the future are the institutions which are going hard in, all in on AI.
Yeah. That's absolutely interesting. And even I would like to understand, like, even as a professional, you would be talking to your colleagues about Gen AI. What emotion do you hear most often underneath their words? Curiosity, do you hear? Do you hear anxiety, defensiveness, or excitement? Because that would also just be good to hear from your professional
Mo-
experience.
yes, most of them feel afraid because they can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, especially in English for academic purposes, they can see it. I mean,
Yeah.
you're no longer relevant. Okay,
Yeah.
so you are in a classroom and you tell your students, oh, write like a topic sentence. Oh, wow. They can go to DeepSeek if they're Chinese,
Yeah.
or they can go to Gemini and they can write that. So most of them feel afraid. Most of them, they feel, yes, I need to upskill myself. I need to educate myself. For example, for my PhD thesis, I created like a 6-module professional development program specifically for EAP tutors. I even give like a certificate of attendance in the end. I had like 55 people enrolled in my
Okay.
program. Guess how many people actually completed the program?
Maybe 10%?
Yeah, around like 16 people
Oh, okay.
out of the 58,
Okay.
which means, oh, they know the danger, they can see it
Yeah.
coming. They've been offered a free of charge professional development program, and they enroll and then they never show up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. And it's not a surprise also with a trend that happens anyways. People do feel, I don't know why people would be feeling scared of AI or learning more about AI. And even I would like to ask you, what I think you mentioned even about your PhD research. Could you tell us about your research and how does it connect to AI and in what capacity? And what are you trying to answer through your research, basically?
So for my PhD thesis, as I mentioned, I create like a 6-module professional development program. So each module is targeted to a different aspect of English for academic purposes and generative AI. So the main purpose of the program is to help EAP tutors learn how to use generative AI in their EAP daily teaching. For example, like module 2 is about academic reading and writing. And I have like academic papers, I have videos, I have
Yeah.
tutorials, practical activities, so they can go in and really test and experiment with what generative AI can do in that context. And the methodology I'm using is design-based research. So the participants of the program are supposed to complete uh, frequent evaluations of the program. And based on their evaluations and their comments, I change the program. So the ultimate goal of that thesis is to create like a framework.
Okay.
How should a generative AI professional development program should look like in English for academic purposes? But I suspect and I hope that this framework will be usable to other, higher education fields.
Yeah.
Uh, so this is the goal of my
Yeah.
program, and throughout, because I also have like a lot of forum discussions. For
Yeah.
example, in the first module, I have a forum discussion talking about how do you think generative AI is going to change EAP as a profession, and there the
Okay.
responses are like gold, and I hope I can write, for example, a paper out of it.
So can you share
Um,
some important findings or insights that you have come across so far?
Yes, I mean, many, as I mentioned, many tutors feel afraid that they're
Yeah. Yeah.
going to be replaced, that they're going to lose their jobs. There is another percentage of participants who feel like excited as well
Yeah.
and hopeful.
Yeah.
I mean, oh,
Yeah.
look what we can do with AI
Yeah.
and what great things we can, create. But I think in all of them, there is like this underlying fear. And I want to mention something. Let's not forget about that this generative AI thing came right after COVID.
Yeah.
And because I was in that profession before COVID, and I can tell you, because I was also the convener of a special interest group within BALIP, which was called Technology Enhanced Learning. I can tell you in that field, we had a lot of dinosaurs, a lot of people
Yeah.
who didn't want to use even a
Yeah.
cookies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then they had to use some technology that their
Yeah.
institution was mandating because they would lose their jobs. And right after they thought, oh, we came back to normal, I can go back to whatever I was
Yeah.
doing, then
Yeah.
generative AI hit. So these are back to back major hits. And these hits are targeted at people who really resist
Yeah.
generative AI and technology in general. And these
Yeah.
people will not survive. And I'm in good knowledge that certain institutions around the world, joint ventures, British
Yeah.
ventures with other countries as well, they're forcing people
Yeah.
55 years old plus to resign.
Yeah. Honestly, I can
And why
absolutely.
are they doing that?
Yeah.
Because these are the people who are not willing to adapt and change, and maybe they can't. I really don't know, because I'm not 55 to
Yeah.
think to know how they think like.
I think it might not be the thing to do with the age. It's about being receptive about the change. But I absolutely agree with you. After COVID hit, people went on to online tools, online learning, or remote learning. But after some period was cooled down, people were thinking we can just get back to the old normal, whereas the new normal absolutely changed. And very interestingly, I used to work at University of Nottingham at the same time you were working. I used to work in the UK campus from 2019 until 2022. I was working there. So, University of Nottingham being a very traditional university, they had different approach, but I'm sure they have developed and have been able to catch up with AI and different tools. And the new normal was not the the actually the previous normal that they had. New normal was very different, and which was very much enhanced in terms of online learning, people adapting to the use of AI. And I think it's valid across the sector. But I even feel that people, when they're talking about AI, they have a different view in public, but when they talk about it like privately to some colleagues or friends, their view is very different. So have you noticed a difference between how confident people sound in public talking about AI and the use of AI, the future of AI, and how they speak about it in privately, do you think?
I can share with you something even more interesting.
Yes, please.
People thinking that they're like digitally literate or capable of doing things, and what is actually the reality. So, for example, I had a list of participants in my study, and at some point I was ready to share with them my program. Okay, and then I sent to them like a very detailed email with instructions, with everything, like the links, a video, how are you going to log into the program. And some of them went to Moodle, they created their profile, and then I received some emails. Oh, I cannot log in, I cannot find the course, I cannot do this, I cannot find this. And
Yeah.
the simple answer to this one, oh, did you check your spam folder? And they were like, oh, wow, wow. How can you label yourself? Oh, I have enough knowledge about technologies, and the only missing component is generative AI, but I cannot think to check my spam folder, for example.
Yeah, that's an interesting insight. Thank you for
And not
sharing that.
only that, like that doesn't annoy me, but some of them,
Yeah.
for example, they send me quite angry emails, like aggressive emails
No.
about how I didn't do something correctly and I'm making their lives difficult. But yes, you need to log in. You're going to receive like a link back. Yes, it went to the spam folder. You should have checked that.
Yeah.
This is like 101
Yeah. So how do you respond to such situations?
with patience.
Yeah. That- I think that's a very key attribute to have patience with, I think, irrespective in professional capacity as well as personal capacity.
It's one of the personal observations I'm adding to my PhD.
Okay.
Because you can see, like, technology makes them feel frustrated
Yeah.
when something, even when something very, very simple goes off, and they feel so frustrated. Then you can see the reality. Because I'll tell you something, you are gonna ask people, you're gonna give them surveys, but
Yeah.
I don't think these methods reveal the truth. You need to observe them to find out the truth, and these
Yeah.
incidents show something about their psychology, their state of mind, and what they
Yeah.
really, really feel about all of this. Because
Yeah.
I can tell you a big percentage of these people would like to go back to the blackboard.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you something. In 2019, summertime, I was working at UCL in London, and we were still conducting peer feedback with pen, pencil, and paper. It wasn't effective. I can tell
Yeah.
you something. Yes, okay. And then after 4 months COVID came and disrupted everything. But I'll tell you, like 4 months before COVID hit, we were given like a booklet, and everything was like offline with pen, papers, and
Yeah.
pencils, and very, very old fashioned. I think the changes happened in 5 years' time, and I think this is very, very hard to swallow, like a very, very
Yeah.
big pill to digest. But
Yeah.
I think things are progressing like very, very, very fast,
Yep.
and
Absolutely.
generative AI is going to disrupt everything.
And it's difficult to keep pace with the development in the AI space at the moment as we speak. And
Hmm.
also curious to understand, because you have been working on your research, you speak with people and you have evidence in this space. So how do you balance what the data shows you with what your professional instincts tell you?
Yes, this is like the main researcher bias, and this is something I need to mention in my limitations. And to be
Okay.
honest with you, I'm very intrigued to include both because
Yeah.
I think both reveal something very, very deep
Okay.
uh, about how people think, about technology integration, about generative AI.
And if you have to say and something to any EAP professional listening who might quietly suspect the role may become obsolete, what would you say to them?
Make yourselves useful. Tell your managers to think about what is the next day for EAP. Look at the changes happening around you and really, really try to upskill yourselves in terms of generative AI. You may be working in an institution that is not supportive. There are ways nowadays to go in. For example, my course is out there. I'm gonna invite people again. You can go to an OpenAI Academy. You can go to Claude Academy, Anthropic Academy, Gemini, Google
Yeah.
Educator. Like there are so many resources out there
Yeah.
for free, and you can access them and you can learn and you can become useful. For example, like this thesis, this idea, the fact that I try to educate myself about AI as soon as possible, that gave me the opportunity to change my professional journey. And now I have like a completely different job. And I
Yeah.
can tell you, inside universities right now, they're not talking about writing skills. They're
Yeah.
talking about, oh, you're an EAP tutor. Can you teach my students about prompt engineering skills in English?
Yeah. And do you think it's acceptable for a professional to be using AI like in their professional practice on a regular basis? Or do you think it's still a hidden practice? Because what I'm trying to ask is because when student is writing an essay, it's an expectation that they should refer that if whether they have used AI or not. Do you think in professional practices, colleagues should also be able to mention and refer, yes, they have been using AI assistant on a regular basis?
Yes, and it shouldn't be a taboo. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be seen as cheating.
Yeah.
It's something that most people are doing anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's about accepting that, as you mentioned earlier. It's people feel that they'll be judged that whether they have been using their own skills or whether it's all AI driven. That's another thing that like that AI should challenge, and I'm sure that that would disrupt in the future. Also, people understanding that AI can make a lot of difference. It can make things easier for you, whereas the gap or the spare time that you have got, you can use that on something else, learning new skill or exploring other things that you can.
Yes, absolutely. And like I'm also suspecting something else. The universities that do not invest in I think these are the universities who are either stingy, like
Okay.
very, narrow-minded, or these are the universities that really do not have money to
Yeah.
invest in AI. So maybe we should think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you, I think you also mentioned earlier that AI, in your opinion, will affect the employability in higher education. So when you say affect employability, do you mean about job losses? Do you mean role redesign, new expectation, or something more broader?
We're looking into completely different job descriptions.
Yeah.
Like what I see every day is that you need to have some kind of vision. Like at the university I'm working right now, everybody's doing that. Everybody's asking the other people to do exactly that. Oh, change that
Yeah.
module, change your program, add generative AI in this process, in that process, or think about where you should add generative AI in order to become more competitive, to keep
Yeah.
up with the developments. So if you're very narrow minded and you don't believe in generative AI and you're not making those changes, eventually they're going to fire you.
Yeah. Yeah. Potentially, yes. So, do you think this resistance to Gen AI is actually resistance to rapid change more generally rather than the technology itself?
Or maybe people are just tired
Yeah.
and they do not want to invest the time to learn something new.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That could be another perspective. And if someone in higher education still sees Gen AI as a side issue, what would you say to them?
It's not a side issue. It's absolutely important. It's number one skill. It's number one skill.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And has generative AI overall made you think differently about what it means to be knowledgeable now?
Yes, absolutely. I think nowadays, like a higher education professional should have a completely different skill set. And an important skill nowadays is the ability to be like a lifelong learner.
Yeah,
Like gone are the days where, oh, you could have like a master's degree or a PhD 20 years ago and that was that and everything was fine. You're no, this is not working anymore. You need to keep up with things. I mean, generative AI is running, not walking, is running, and you need to be on top of it, and you need to follow the latest developments, and you need to update your module, because also the students are
yeah,
using technology. I mean, I have a 7 month daughter. My
okay.
daughter is like 7 months, and she already grabs my laptop, she already grabs my phone. I mean, can we
But
realize a little bit the
yeah,
generation we are teaching and the generations we are going to teach? These
yeah,
are children,
yeah,
children who were born with a smartphone in
yeah,
their hands.
absolutely. And even
And
parents
you
have been,
expect to motivate them by teaching them what? Skills that belong to the previous decade?
yeah, absolutely. And parents these days, even about parenting, they must have asked AI about so many things that must even make the nurturing and upbringing of their children much better. And on that, may I even ask, what's the name of your daughter?
Mary.
Mary, because in 5 years timeline, when we'll talk again on few things, Mary would be speaking. She has participated in this podcast also in the background. We have heard her. So I just wanted to name her. So in 5 years,
Yes, yes,
she
yes, yes,
can
this,
participate
this,
and listen to her that we acknowledge
yes,
Mary in the conversation as well.
yes, exactly. And some of the things we
Yeah,
discussed today, these are things that are going to happen, are
yeah.
going to become a reality. And for I don't know, maybe it's for the better.
And specifically, Penny, you mentioned about people should be upskilling. AI is moving at such a faster pace. They should be running right now. But upskilling and finding time for upskilling is a huge challenge, as you would understand yourself as a working mother, as well as being a wife and different responsibilities, even doing PhD and also your work practices. There's so many things to you actually have commitment towards. So it's very challenging for people to find time for upskilling nowadays. And even after COVID, it has also impacted so many people's well-being, particularly. So it's
I'm
been
gonna
encouraged
ask you
people.
something
Yes.
about that.
Yes. What?
Everyone who's listening to that podcast should go on their smartphone right now and find out the time they invest every day in Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, or generally
Yeah.
scrolling their smartphone, because I think most of us spend an hour daily.
Yeah.
What you can do, you can have all these applications on your phone. I'll tell you something about myself. I love learning languages.
Yeah.
As a child, I used to learn like French, and I don't want to
Yeah.
forget my French. So, for example, I have Duolingo. So instead of scrolling Facebook for 20 minutes, you can go to Duolingo and complete like a course. Instead of scrolling Instagram, you can download Anthropic Academy and you can scroll it. Or you don't need to complete the course, just download the applications and play with them.
Yeah, but I think it's easier said than done because thing is that all the tools, Instagram, Facebook, and Reels, all the culture that has evolved recently, they have also been investing a lot of time in developing those platforms so that it's addictive for the people watching it. It's very difficult to come out of it, and it's literally like an addiction now. So it's a thing. Even neuroscience might have been coming up with articles to say that addiction is also a disease nowadays with these apps. So knowing about the need to upskill, but getting off those devices has been very difficult, as it's even particularly in my experience also. I need to upskill myself on so many different things, but when I finish work, I would rather do something else to have a break from the work rather than going again on Anthropic Academy or AI Academy to be learning more about it. I do learn, I have an aspiration to learn, but I find it very difficult. And on that note, I would like to ask you, how do we avoid upskilling becoming just another pressure placed on already stretched professionals?
I think the workplace plays an important role. I think if universities develop real programs that help their professionals evolve, and I think this time should be paid, I think it should be embedded on our work schedule.
Yeah,
And if people realize the importance, and it's something the employer imposes, okay, not
yeah,
really imposes, but if it becomes an organic component of the professional life, I think people are going to change and people are going to embrace, because if you are an educator, it means you love learning.
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay, so I think the workplace, especially the universities, these are higher educational institutions. They should promote learning. And I
yeah,
think in the area of educating higher education professionals about generative AI, 90% of them fall short.
yeah, yeah,
And this is something that should change. And you're right, when you finish work, why do it? But if you want to find a new job,
yeah,
because I had an interview a few months ago. I was asked about generative AI. So you need to
yeah,
think about that nowadays. If you want to change universities, you want to go
yeah,
and move to a
yeah,
different place and you need to find a job, they're going to ask you about AI. So if
yeah,
your
man,
current
yeah.
employer is not providing any training, what are you going to do? Become unemployed?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's a very valid point. People need to be thinking on some low lift skills or habits change that you can start to build your own confidence and momentum with, at least be able to catch up with AI and also to follow the trend, what's happening, so that you can always remain employable and kind of remain like employment worthy as well as with the right skills that any employment or even you have there is a anything difficulty even in the current job role, you can at least be easily employed at other place, maybe with progression or promotion even.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And upskilling is an important part of it.
Yeah. Do you think newer professionals have an advantage here because they may be less attached to the older ways of working? Like, as we were discussing earlier, people would want to go to Blackboard, people want to go to old ways of working. But the neo professionals who have literally studied during COVID period, remote learning, and they have been using AI right from the first day of their professional journeys because they might have written their essays or things that might have submitted during their studies using AI. So do they have advantage here because they may be less attached or they might not be even familiar with older ways of working?
Absolutely. Generation Z, this is the generation we're talking about. I belong to the millennials, but the generation coming after me, they're very adaptable. We are talking about people who are really digitally literate. They were born with devices around them.
Yeah,
And we are talking about a highly adaptable generation. So, yes, absolutely. There is an advantage to them. I know, I listen to other podcasts as well. There are people who oppose Generation Z, saying, oh, they're not working enough, they're lazy. No, they're not lazy, they just know their rights. They haven't learned to, okay, just do your work and shut up because you're not going to find another job. No,
yeah,
they know their rights. They want work life balance. And I
Yeah,
think this generation is very, very adaptable, very well
absolutely.
qualified in most of the cases. So I think, yes, now I think as we move on, age doesn't mean experience, and experience doesn't mean quality teaching.
Yeah. But how would you suggest making their, because we've I know newer professionals and the Generation Z, as you mentioned, are more prone to be using AI. But how would you be encouraging them to have some kind of evidence-based, knowledge base, or some kind of learning rather than everything informed by AI? Because AI couldn't be a source of seeking knowledge. It can confirm, it can be an assistant tool. But how would you advise the newer generation listening to a conversation about how they should be actually confirming their knowledge, not just rely on AI?
Yes, I mean, like this happens only if, I mean, you are using AI constantly instead of using your mind,
Yeah,
because we know that, okay, there are people who are using AI very, very aggressively, and that is
absolutely.
not good for their brain as well. Their
Yeah.
brain is becoming lazy and stupid. I'm not talking about
Yeah,
these people, because also these people cannot teach. You
yeah,
cannot teach if you're imitating or if you're learning anything, everything like through ChatGPT. So I don't think a big percentage of people are doing that, because teaching is going to expose any weakness. You're standing in front of the students and you're like naked, your mind is naked, and they're asking you questions, and it's you're like a performer. So I don't think
yeah,
many people are doing that, because they wouldn't be able to teach.
yeah. I absolutely agree with you. And I feel that as long as people have basis to use their mind productively and also be able to challenge AI and make it more like an assisting tool, and that can make the conversation on knowledge base more productive, as long as you can ask the rationale behind it, anything you might be asking or having an interaction with AI, as long as you have basis for what it's suggesting, that can give you a very rational approach to be thinking as well as gaining knowledge. Because I've seen some people literally use as a therapist AI, you would be using as a friend. It's not, there is no harm as long as it's used in a very balanced approach. And you have other sources also to confirm your knowledge. There might be books and things you might read, but it shouldn't let you refrain from reading anything. But people should still stick with AI as an assisting tool rather than the sole place where you will be learning everything new that you might be coming across. And
I agree with you.
yeah, thank you, Penny. And I also want to ask you, I think we even discussed earlier, if we were having this conversation, say in 3 years or 5 years, what do you think you would be most proud to have got right?
That the assessment in higher education is going to change completely.
Yeah, and can you expand more? How do you think it should change? It would change? What will be the difference? Do you think university will still exist
Everything will
in 5 years?
become, yeah, everything is pointing towards process. Process
Okay.
is going to become very, very important. Presentation skills are going to become very important. Reflective writing is going to exist as well. Like, for example,
Yeah.
at the university right now, everything, like, we're going to you know change the whole program, and people will access like virtual reality, and then they will talk about it and debate about it, about things that are really, really happening in this world. And then they will record, or for example, they will create a presentation, and they will create like a generative AI enhanced presentation or a video presentation. So we're talking about completely different skills,
Yeah.
technical skills combined with content skills.
Yeah.
Everything is going to change.
Yeah. Let's even talk about your prediction, and it might sound controversial right now, but it could be very true in the future. What do you think higher education in maybe 2030 would look like to you? Do you think how the infrastructure as well as the delivery of higher education and education in general look like to you?
As a final note to this podcast, I think higher education in the future will be completely different. People will design their own programs.
Yeah.
Earning a degree, it is going to mean that you have certain skills, not that you have completed like certain assessments or certain modules. everyone will be able to craft their own path towards graduation. This is going to change.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you, Penny. And even I would like to add to that. In my anticipation and projection of higher education, I don't think people will be actually going to physical buildings to study. They would be
Yeah.
more inclined to remote learning. They can choose their own pathway. They can do one module from one university, another module from different university, and there has to be a collaborative approach among the universities as an ecosystem that give flexibility to their future students to be working across different modules, different courses, and access to learning, and then also getting access to a degree or whatever diploma they would be aspiring to have. And people will refrain from the physical infrastructure of the universities that they have an understanding right now. And this is my anticipation of the future of higher education.
Okay, let's see if we're right.
Yes, and we're nearly towards the end of our podcast, Penny. If people listen to this episode and remember only one thing you say, what would you want that to be?
The only thing I want people to remember is that AI is here, is not going to leave. So make sure you are employable tomorrow.
Yeah, perfect. That's a very good advice, Penny. And another one is if you think that entire world is listening to our podcast, what is one thing you would want educators to hear about responding to generative AI thoughtfully and with courage?
Talk to each other, exchange experiences. I think this is like this is the best professional development for educators is the staff room, a
Yeah,
Facebook group, the group in general. So talk to each other and don't hide behind, using generative AI.
that's a brilliant advice, Penny. And I think people should be open to being challenged, be open about learning. That could be another thing that people should be considering, I feel. People have a fear of being challenged. People have fear of knowing being obsolete, confirming that it scares them off. But I think people should be open towards and receptive towards it. That might encourage them to change as well, I feel. And before we close, Penny, where can listeners find more about your work? Or if somebody would like to get in touch with you for future discussion or further discussion or even collaboration, how can they
I
reach out to you?
have I have two newsletters. I have a newsletter that I publish on LinkedIn. It's called AI in Higher Education, and also have my own Substack. So you can find me both places. I think we can add like a link.
Absolutely. We'll add in
Uh,
the description.
yes, we will. You can find the link to the description, and you can send me a message on LinkedIn through my
Yeah.
newsletter, or you can find my email on my Substack.
Yeah, and we will put the link for your newsletter and your contact details in the description. So anybody who would like to collaborate and confirm your projection of the future of AI, and I think people should reach out. And it's a collaborative world, and I think learning definitely enhances their own understanding of the use of AI. And that finally brings us to the end of today's episode of Unfiltered by Empowered. A huge thank you to you, Penny, for joining us and for sharing such thoughtful, timely, and evidence-informed reflection on generative AI. I think definitely that this conversation has given us all a lot to think about, especially around how we continue to adapt, grow, and remain relevant in a rapidly changing educational landscape. Thank you to all of you as well for tuning in. I hope today's discussion has offered useful insights, sparked some fresh thinking, and perhaps encouraged you to reflect on your own professional journey and the skills that may matter most in the future. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay updated on all the latest episodes. Until next time, stay curious, stay reflective, and stay empowered. Thank you so much.